Hi, welcome to the race review of the recent Bolton Ironman 70.3 that I did at the weekend. I just wanted to put down something on video to remind me of all the things that I should have done in transition, in the training, in the registration, all of the various phases of the race, preparation and the race itself, to remind me not to make those same mistakes when I do the full event in July 2022. So this is a race review of how the day went and also some additional planning for the full next year. So as a brief introduction, you can see I completed the Bolton half on the 26th of September 2021. Trained for about 3 months leading up to the event. Didn't do a huge amount of training, in all honesty. You'll see later on I did a few swim sessions, probably about 10 or 11 swim sessions in total, averaging about 5 miles of running a week. Did quite a lot of cycling, did about 55 miles on average a week, a lot of hilly rides as well. I'd already entered the full Ironman in 2020, which then obviously got pushed back to 2021. Wasn't ready for it this year at all, so deferred it to 2022, which in hindsight was a really good shout actually, based on the experiences of a lot of the guys who did this year's event with the really bad weather. I'm not going to break any records when I'm out on the course. I'm literally trying to get around it as best I can. You can see that from the times here from this half. So yeah, I've got the full event coming up next July. So the idea of doing this was really to just get familiar with the course and get familiar with the distance and just get my head in a state where I'm ready for doing this and taking this on. So yeah, trained a bit. Didn't go mad with it. 6-7 hours a week in total, which I know isn't enough, but hence why I'm doing it in 7.5 hours and not 5 or 6. Yeah, I really wanted to use this as a springboard for the full, get that base of training in. So I'm going to continue now and push on. This has really given me the motivation to push on and complete that full Ironman distance in July of next year. So just a note on the registration process and logistics, because whilst the whole process was pretty straightforward, I think doing it all in one day, as in registering, dropping your red bag, dropping your blue bag, taking your bike, it was a bit of a logistical nightmare, if I'm being honest. I had bikes on the top of the car, which I was concerned about, and we were leaving it in Morrison's car park, and when we had to go to Queen's Park to drop the red bag off, I parked my car on a random side street, and obviously we had a couple of, pricey bikes on the roof. When we got back to the car, there was a traffic warden stood there. We weren't parked illegally, but he basically told us, we were kind of living a bit of a charmed life by leaving our bikes on the roof in this particular part of town, because it was a known hotspot for burglaries, having people having bikes nicked, stuff like that. It was a bit of a rat run for the local kind of druggies. So yeah, I think we dodged a bit of a bullet there, and we could have maybe had our bikes taken if we were not careful. And that was the kind of challenge we were in, by not really knowing the area particularly well. I don't know Bolton, even though I'm not a million miles away from it. So next time, what I would probably do, or what I will definitely do, is go up on the Friday without any bikes, just basically go to the town hall, get my wristband, get my welcome pack, my bag, all that kind of stuff, have a look around the athlete village. There wasn't much of one or any really wanted to speak of this time around, because there was no merch tent. For the big one next year that I'm expecting there will be. So go up Friday, get your registration pack, do all of the necessary admin, stick your stuff in your red bag, take a stroll down to Queen's Park, because from the town hall it's 5-10 minutes max. We didn't know that at the time, so we went back to Morrison's because I'd left the bikes on the roof, got in the car, drove to Queen's Park, parked it in a random street, nearly got the bikes nicked. totally, not the right thing to do. So I'm going to go up on the Friday, do the registration, drop the red bag, go home, get up Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, whenever, get the bike on the roof, get the blue bag packed and ready, go to Penny Flash, drop all that off, check transition, get in the car, drive home. Breaking it up into two smaller kind of 2-hour chunks rather than it being, I was out of the house for 5 hours, which the day before the event wasn't the wisest thing to do. So it did feel rushed, and I felt knackered, to be honest, after the Saturday, because it was up early to get into Bolton for 9 to get back for whatever it was, 2 o'clock I had to get back to. So next time, if you can, if you've got that luxury, go up Friday, do the paperwork, go up Saturday, drop your bike at Penny Flash, and then get yourself in the right frame of mind and right mindset for the big day itself. So onto the race itself. We got up early doors, headed into Bolton, parked the car up in the multi-storey near the town hall. Got in about 6:30, got out the car park, got on the shuttle bus which got us into Penny Flash for about 7:15, and then it was obviously wetsuit on into T1, get the wetsuit on, get everything checked, last minute prep on the bike, and then off into the water at around about 8:15 in the morning once we actually got going. And then straight into the swim. So the swim took me just over 51 minutes, which was slower than I anticipated. As I said earlier, I'd not done a huge amount of swim training, probably honestly 7 or 8 pool sessions where I was kind of doing a mile at a time, and 3 open water sessions. So I'd not done a huge amount, but when I was in the pool, my swim was kind of around about the 40-minute mark for 2k. So 51:25 was slower than I thought. I entered the water with the 40-minute group, which was kind of in line with my expectation, but in hindsight was probably a bit ambitious because obviously I was 10 minutes slower than that. By going in with that earlier group, I was just beat around the head numerous times, pretty much from the word go, to be honest, because it was clear that there was a lot of people behind me who were faster than me, who wanted to get in my swim lane. So yeah, that was a kind of a little bit off-putting. Water conditions themselves weren't great. It was murky. There was a lot of pondweed kicking around. Wasn't any wind or any chop, to be fair, but it was it was quite weedy. You had to pull a lot of stuff off your face as you were swimming. So I think my advice next time is probably go with the slower group. So whatever you've been doing in training, maybe give it another 5 or 10 minutes. So you're swimming with people kind of at your speed. In terms of kit and stuff, I had a nose clip on, which worked well. I had my tri-suit underneath the wetsuit, goggles. I gave them a quick spray with the anti-fog solution before I went in. No issues with them steaming up or water, and just the standard issue Ironman swim cap. So all in all, not too bad. Bit slower than kind of expected, but I think the added fun and games of competitors can sometimes do that to you, especially as you start to get near the boys, and you're trying to take a turn and it just goes to a free-for-all wrestling match. But I wouldn't change an awful lot about the swim. Probably just go with the slower group next time, but kit-wise, nothing to change. So in transition, you can kind of see there by the numbers where I lost a lot of time, to be honest. They were super slow. I got out of the water, checked my stopwatch, saw it was on 50 odd minutes. I was disappointed with that, to be fair. And whilst all the other athletes were kind of running down towards transition, I just kind of strolled along with a bit of a face on because I'd not gone as quick as I could. Not the right thing to do, obviously. So I managed to get the wetsuit off, but then I had a really bad bout of cramp, and I'm not the kind of guy who gets cramps generally. So yeah, my left calf just kind of went into a tennis ball for about a minute. So I dried myself off, got the wetsuit off, sat down, just took stock, put all my cycling gear on, and was about to head towards the bike and realised I'd not put my heart rate monitor on. And I've been using that quite a lot in training, especially on the bike, because it kind of gives me an idea of where I'm at in terms of my physical capability and how much strain I'm under. So I always kind of like to be in a nice comfortable zone, mostly if I can, obviously, around the 150 kind of BPM. I know that my max is around about 190, which I'm generally at when I'm going up the hills. So I just wanted to get a feel for, you know, what kind of strain and stress I was under with the heart rate monitor. So anyway, I had to strip off the clothes, put the heart rate monitor on, and then stick the clothes back on again, jump on the bike, and then headed off onto the loop of the course. T2, getting off the bike, to be honest, because my legs felt heavy, I did actually sit down for a moment on one of the benches and think, you know, shall I leave this? Shall I just kind of pack up and go home? But then I had a kind of reality check that I'd actually put, you know, 2-3 months of training in for this, and it's not fair on family mostly just to kind of throw the towel in. So got my running gear on, decided I needed the loo, so waited for a portaloo, which took about 3 minutes to become empty, which was a bit annoying. Anyway, got my stuff, got my trainers on, headed out onto the run, and just thought, you know what, let's do a mile and see how we get on. And then thankfully 1 mile led to 2, and 2 to 3, and so on and so on. And as soon as you get on the course and you get kind of the crowd cheering you on, really does spur you on. So that was my motivation, to get my head down on the run and just keep the miles ticking over. So yeah, I mean, you can see there from the timings, that's 26 minutes in transition, which is terrible considering it was just a half. Put way too much stuff in the bike bag especially. Run bag was okay because it was really just my trainers, socks, and a bite to eat. But the swim bag, you don't need loads and loads of stuff. I was going to put bib shorts on and socks and all the rest of it, and actually ended up wearing a tri-suit. So I just got my wetsuit off, put my cycling jersey on once I got rid of the cramp, and then my little gilet I put on as well, and kind of packed my pump away and kind of got on with it. So yeah, massive room for improvement next time around. I reckon I could do both transitions probably in about 5 to 6 minutes each. So yeah, that should be more like 12 minutes rather than kind of 23, 24, so I can half that time. So yeah, room for improvement there, definitely. So I was pretty happy with the bike overall. I'd done quite a bit of training leading up to it on the bike. Most weekends doing 50s and 60s in the hills. Also did a recce loop with my bro who did the Ironman with us, so we'd kind of got some experience of going up from kind of the Black Dog pub up to the top where the big mast is on Winter Hill and back down and round, so we kind of knew what was coming around the golf course and places like that. So 340-ish for the bike was respectable, averaging just over 15 miles per hour. I do think I've got more in me on that though, without a shadow of a doubt. If I was to put more training in, get a turbo trainer, get on Zwift and all that kind of stuff. Felt pretty good for the majority of it. Got chatting to a few people on the way around, which always helps. I did find the last 8 miles pretty hard though. My legs shouldn't have gone because I've done some big rides leading up to it. I've done a couple of 80, 85 milers with hills. So I can only kind of put it down to kind of maybe just some kind of race nerves, going a bit hard at the start. I think my first 25 miles I was averaging 17 miles per hour. I know it's fairly flat on the first bit, but I probably went a bit quick, got caught up in it all. And then I think as soon as I got to the top of kind of the main hill, Winter Hill, and then I started kind of coming back down, I probably thought it was kind of ride done, probably went a bit hard. And then as we started to come over the reservoirs and then started heading back down Chorley New Road, Chorley Old Road, whichever it is, that's kind of when there was a bit of a headwind, and there's quite a few little cheeky climbs still left to do. Not massive, but ones that kind of catch you out. So I did find the last 8 miles hard. If it would have been just a ride, I'd have just got my head down and ploughed on. But obviously I knew I had to get off and do some running afterwards, so I didn't go mad on the bike. In terms of kind of nutrition and drinks, I've been training using kind of the little Saurine Lunchable bars, which, to be fair, always seem to do the job. I've had bad experiences in the past with gels where during the bike ride they're fine, but then when you get off and try and run, the stomach starts cramping. So I decided to switch to Saurine bars for this whole kind of training period and event, which worked pretty well, to be fair. Probably could have done with another one, if I'm being honest. What I did is I cut the little bars up in half and put them in my bag on the front of the bike, and every 20 minutes was probably just having half a bar, so I was constantly keeping topped up. So I didn't get that kind of feeling you get sometimes in your stomach when you feel really tired and hungry. I didn't get that throughout it, but my legs just started feeling a little bit heavy. So yeah, I did ease off a bit on the way in, certainly, just to make sure I was in a decent state for me run. A huge amount of people pass me on the flats with tri bars. I'm a pretty good climber on the bike, so going up the hills is what I enjoy doing. And I was kind of overtaking a lot of people when we got to the hills, especially the guys on tri bikes who, you know, would just head down, grinding it out. I felt pretty comfortable. But what had happened is then we'd get to a fairly flat bit and they'd just come flying past me in the tuck position with their aero bars. So I'm going to get some tri bars next time. I'm going to start training with some tri bars, get on Zwift, get the mileage in. And hopefully that will make a bit of a difference. In terms of my bike, I'm just using a standard kind of giant road bike, carbon framed obviously. Got some decent wheels on there, some decent hunt wheels, so it's nice and light, probably why I like going up the hills as much as I do. I had 2 bottles of orange juice, just kind of orange cordial in the bottles. Again, worked well, no need to stop and get any additional drinks. Fairly self-sufficient with what was in there. And then cycling gear, you can see I just put a cycling jersey and gilet over the tri-suit, and yeah, usual stuff, gloves, helmet, all the rest of it. So yeah, bike was okay, but honestly I think I probably got a 3:15 in me on the bike. I reckon I could have done it 20-25 minutes faster. That's kind of what I was doing in training, but again, not quite as good as I was expecting. But as I said, happy enough with 15 miles an hour, considering there was near on 4,000 feet of climbing just on that 56-mile loop course. So yeah, fairly happy, but I think more training would give me massive benefits in that area. So the run went as well as could be expected, considering it's just over 2.5 hours, which actually I was fairly happy with, considering kind of my best half time when I'm just doing a half is about 1:50, so it wasn't massively slower than what I'm used to. It was difficult, to be fair, coming out of T2 with my trainers on. Really didn't feel like it, but obviously knew I had to push on and get going. So headed out onto the course. As soon as you leave Queen's Park, there's people there on the barriers, you know, giving you motivation, calling your name. That makes a huge difference. Got to about half a mile in and then saw my brother coming the other way. He was about a mile ahead of me. So that gave me a huge boost, gave him a high five and had a brief chat before carrying on. And I just basically used the run walk technique, which is what I've been doing in training. Basically running for 8 minutes, walking for 2, running for 8, walking for 2. And I stuck to that mostly for, I would say, the first loop, the first 10k, which felt pretty good because the running course is, again, not massively hilly, but some cheeky little climbs. You go back from Bolton town centre and you head into the park, and then you're kind of going up then through the park on this little footpath, which is quite spiky, and you come out the gates onto Chorley Old Road, and then it kind of climbs again for about 2 miles. So yeah, there was lots of running and walking, but I had obviously my pacing watch on, so I could kind of see what I was doing every mile. For the first few miles, it was coming in at around 11 minute miling. Once I got to mile kind of 7 and 8, that had dropped off to about 12 and a half. And then as I started coming back in, so you do that kind of bend on Chorley Old Road where you come back on yourself, and then it's kind of downhill all the way. That felt pretty good. So my pace for the last 3 miles was about 10-minute mile pace. I had the buzz of coming back in. There was lots of people out by then outside the pub, all cheering me on. There wasn't a lot of competitors left at that point, so you were kind of getting special treatment from everyone, which was great. Had water at most of the water feed stations. Didn't have anything else, no kind of Coke or anything like that, Coca-Cola. No knee issues, which was good because I have had IT band issues in the past at this kind of distance, but I think because I was running and walking, that preserved my legs and my knees quite a bit, which has given me massive confidence actually for the main one next year, because that's really what I'm doing this for. It's really just to get yourself in a mindset of getting in a kind of a middle distance triathlon so that you can then hit the big one next year. So doing this in 2.5 hours means, you know what, if I've got to walk it next year, then so be it. But I'm confident, even if I'm doing the big one next year, or when I do the big one, probably going to be about 6 hours, I would think, maybe a little bit more, just about getting around it and getting the t-shirt and getting the medal and hearing those magic words. So yeah, didn't eat a lot. Had a gel, which helped me because I felt a bit weak at about mile 9 or 10, so just to tide me in for the last 3 miles, had a gel. And then yeah, just came round back in through the main square to Bolton Town Hall, had a few people waiting, which was amazing. Run down the red carpet and got the medal, so yeah, happy with that. Happy that my knees held out. After the event, I've had some knee pain on the IT band down the right hand side of the knee, but to be honest, it's only lasted a couple of days, so I'm not overly concerned about that. At the end of the day, I was running and walking for 2.5 hours, so some knee pain is to be expected. But yeah, pretty happy with that. 2.5 hours for a half marathon on the back of a pretty tough bike ride. So yeah, happy enough. So as you would expect, coming back into Bolton town centre and running up round past the town hall, knowing you've done your laps and you can swing a right and head down the finishing chute, as they call it, was a super feeling. Yeah, I had my stopwatch on my left hand, which kind of gave me my overall time. I had 2 watches on, one for kind of the bike and run, and then one for just the overall thing. So as soon as I got in the water, that went. So I kind of knew I was close to that 7:30 point. So yeah, I managed to finish it in 7:28.25, so a minute and a half before my kind of own internal target really. But it was a good feeling, because I had, whilst I've not done massive amounts of training, I had put a bit of effort in for it, kind of throughout July, August and into September. So I think building up to it, certainly the last week, because I'd tapered my training and not done an awful lot, you start thinking to yourself, oh no, have I done enough? I should have been out on the bike and done another 50 miles, or I should have been in the pool and done another 2k or whatever. So you start kind of doubting yourself. So at this point I was actually quite relieved that I'd managed to kick on and just kind of show that mental strength to just carry on and get that run done and dusted. Because as I said earlier, once I got off the bike, I just thought, not sure I can be bothered. And maybe in the past, I probably at that point would have just gone, you know what, let's call it quits. But I think what this has shown me is, obviously, mental strength is huge in anything like this, any long distance event where you're doing something for 7 hours. Of course, next year, when I'm getting round the main event in 2022, I'm a get round it kind of athlete. I'm not going to be breaking records or getting sub 10, 11, 12. I've literally, if I've got 17 hours to do this, then if I do it in 16 hours and 55 minutes, then I will be happy, as long as I get that medal and kind of get on with it. So yeah, relieved that I had that kind of mental capacity, which you know, I had to dig deep for a little bit. And just utterly thrilled just to get across the line. And of course, it was extra special because both my dad and my brother had done it as well. So I've been training with them and the open water swimming, been out bike riding with them. So it was just a really good kind of family day out and just a good feeling to get it and get that medal in my hand. And just know that I kind of got a little bit of time off, not too much because I don't want this kind of training to drop off too much, but just knowing that I don't have to go out at the weekend and do 65 on the bike, or I don't have to get in Sale Water Park and do a mile and a half in the water for a while. What I am going to do though is get a turbo trainer, Sharpish, one of the smart ones with Zwift, and keep the legs ticking over. It's one thing I'm going to massively focus on for the race next year. I want to smash that bike. I like the hills, I like the distance, but I just need more in the legs and I need to fuel right. So that's where I'm going to focus my training. You know, the swim, if it takes me an hour and 40, an hour and 45, happy with that. If we can get that bike down to somewhere near 7 hours, sub 7 would be a brilliant target for me, which then gives me plenty of time for the run, which, you know, I can run and walk a marathon if I have to in 6 hours, 7 hours. Don't want it to take that long, obviously, but I know that if I need it, I've got it. So yeah, happy with how the day went, happy that I completed it, got the medal, happy that the weather was good for us, because obviously there's a few people I'm in a WhatsApp group with who did the full one in July this year, where it was horrendous, and I couldn't imagine what it would be like negotiating that bike course, especially on the downhills, on the descents, in, you know, driving rain. It was bad enough on a dry day. Some of the potholes as you came over the tops were pretty hairy, and quite a few people came off. So yeah, it was a nice day. The weather was great. Good spectators out, so big thanks to them as well, because as I said before, on the run makes a huge difference. So yeah, enough of me rabbiting on, and I will see you in 2022 July as an Ironman. Thank you. So over the next few slides, I'm going to put a bit of a training review together, just so I can see kind of how much effort I put into this, where I need to improve next time, where I should focus most of my effort. I am kind of spreading myself quite thin across the 3 disciplines, and honestly I think I can probably get more gains from doing more bike training, so I can aim for that kind of 7 hours next time around. So this is really just a look back as to what I did, how many sessions I did, and kind of how I felt afterwards. So we'll start with the swim training, and you can see by the graph there, it doesn't look great in terms of the amount of sessions I did and the distance I did. As I said at the outset, swimming isn't my favourite bit. I've got massive room for improvement on this. I got back in the pool for the first time early July, just started off with like half a mile. In the whole kind of 3 months leading up to the event, I only actually got in the water 11 times, which is shocking really. I should be doing 2-3 sessions a week. Out of those 11, 3 of them were in open water at Sale Water Park, where I was doing distances between kind of 3/4 of a mile and just over a mile. You can see that I was averaging about 1.3 miles per week, hence why you can tell my overall time at 51 was probably about right based on the amount of training I did. If I'm going to make improvements next time, which I know I can, then my swimming has to be an area of focus. I need to be getting in the water 2, maybe 3 times per week. I need to be doing 1.5 miles, 2 miles per session, which would take my weekly mileage up to about 4 or 5 miles per week. That's where I need to get to in reality. On the flip side, it's nice having this as a bit of a fallback, knowing that if I don't have the time to dedicate to it, then 50 minutes for 1.2 miles, which would hopefully be about 1:45 for the 2.4 that I'm going to do in July. Obviously I'm not going for that. I'm going to try and improve the swim, and I'm going to start looking at maybe working with a coach or getting a training plan in this area, because I always feel like I've got so much more left in the tank when I've done the swim, and that can only be a kind of a technique issue. So yeah, you can see from that it wasn't a brilliant training regime on the swim side, and you can see I went 3 weeks without doing any swimming at all. 1 month out, 6 weeks out from the event, which is pretty poor. So on the bike training, you can see from the chart, average weekly miles much higher than it was on the swimming. Entered the event mid-June, did about 16 weeks training in total, averaging about 54 miles a week, and that generally consisted of 2 rides a week. We'd go out on the weekend, do a 50-55 miler in the hills with some good elevation, try to aim to replicate the Bolton elevation, so somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 feet. Averaging just over 15 miles per hour on those, and then on the midweek, we'd get out on a Wednesday night, probably do 20 to 25 miles, but really push it, try and get the speed going in the legs a bit more, try and aim for kind of 17 and a half, 18 miles per hour. What is noticeable obviously from this is kind of how the training drops off a bit end of July into August due to holidays. Obviously not going to have that issue in July next year, because all of the training should be done before we go on holiday, and the event will be done before we go on a holiday. Got out and did a recce loop of the course with my bro early September, which was really useful actually. Really nice to kind of get your mind and head ready for kind of the tough sections where the climbs are coming, where you need to ease off a little bit, where you need to put it in, where you can go quick, where to avoid the potholes. That was really useful. I'm fortunate in that I live probably about 14-15 miles away from Bolton, so it's not a million miles away, 20 minutes in the car. So I think next time around I'm going to get out on that course on a monthly basis. I'm going to get out and do 2 loops and then build up to 3 loops. I want it to be kind of second nature. I want to know that I've got that in my legs and in my head, more importantly, before the event. So I'm going to be doing a lot of training over the winter. Probably go up there once a month for the next few months when it's a dry day, and just get into that mindset of taking on the hills and taking on the course. But yeah, bike training was all right considering, which is why I kind of did the bike in just under 3:40. Again, not a great time, to be honest, and I reckon I've got a 3:15 in me, but always be mindful that you've got to get off and do a big run afterwards. So my kind of mindset going into this was pretty much just to get round the run course. Wasn't looking for any kind of time. I just wanted to get it done and dusted and get it finished. So a lot of the kind of training I did leading up to it was really just kind of short distances. I did the odd, so I did about 3 long distance runs over the kind of 15-16 weeks, and they were maximum 10 miles. I didn't go beyond 10 miles. I just wanted to get that mental kind of hurdle overcome in my head. Generally I go out and do 5Ks, so a lot of these kind of weekly miles were a couple of 5Ks a week. Get out after work or before work. I have had some kind of IT band issues in the past on my right knee, so I didn't really want to go out and start doing half marathon distances in the kind of lead up to it and aggravate that. So it was really just a case of get close to it in distance, and then on the day just run and walk it, which was the plan that I kind of executed pretty well. One thing I did do on the training was I did laps of a local football field, trying to get into that mental mindset of just getting my head down and getting on with it. It wasn't pretty, so some of the 10-mile runs, which were taking me like an hour and a half, was just head down and just knock the mileage out. I did do the kind of 8-2 method. I thought I'd try it in this training plan, and it worked, to be fair, because I was able to keep my knees in decent condition, whereby I'd run for 8 miles and then just walk at a steady pace for 2, and then run for 8, walk at a steady pace, because I knew I'd be doing that on the day. So I wanted to, again, just using my watch and my heart rate, just to kind of use that 2 minutes to recover and just relax and just let my muscles relax a little bit before then jogging again. So my average pace in a lot of these runs was between kind of 9 and 10 minute mile pace, so not breaking any records, but just getting my legs used to running for longer periods of time. I bought some new trainers about 4 months ago, the Hoka 1-1 Carbon X. I thought I'd give those a whirl. Been reading some good reviews. Again, some of the guys on the WhatsApp group, I've been using them and have had decent results. For me, it's about protecting my knees as much as possible, so I wasn't looking for any gains in speed, but I wanted that extra comfort and cushion to take some of the shock away from my knees, and so far so good with those. Feel really comfortable. I do get a bit of hip pain as I start moving kind of towards the 10-mile mark. I'm not sure that's trainer related or whether it's just kind of lack of fitness, in all honesty. But I have been doing a lot of stretching with the TheraBand to try and just loosen up the limbs and the tendons and the IT band in particular. So next time, probably follow a similar kind of pattern. I will do enough running to get by. I'm not going to do big 15-20 mile runs leading up to it, not a chance, because I've got the danger of really damaging my knees in the build up to it. What I want to do is kind of just get into the mindset of, 13-mile runs, run and walks, really, because that's what I'll be doing on the day. And if everything goes to plan with the swim and the bike, then I've got 7.5 hours to get round a 26-mile course. Could walk that, in all honesty. It's not about a time, it's about just getting over the line and getting that medal and hearing those magic words that I'm an Ironman, basically. So yeah, did enough to get round, and I think that's pretty much the theme in all of this. Not really pushed it. Know that I'm going to have to push it a bit more next time around, but you can see I was 5-6 miles a week, an hour a week basically in the build up to it, running, which is not an awful lot. So my aspirations for next year's race then, in terms of the swim, looking at about 1 hour 45. I know I need to put more training in, more prep. I need to be swimming 2 to 3 times a week. Do some technique work, and need to do bilateral breathing, because at the minute I'm only going to one side. So I need to work on that. But worst case scenario, if I can hit 145, that will be enough. Got to be quicker out of T1. Got to get that 10 minutes down to about 8. Got to put the heart rate monitor on before I put all the rest of my cycling gear on. Remember that next time, and put a big sticker on my bike so I don't forget that. when I do get out on the bike, I'm looking for around about 7.5 hours on the bike, which isn't a huge ask, to be honest, and I reckon I've probably got a little bit more in me. It's going to be the distance that's going to do it, not so much the climbing. But yeah, if I can aim for 7.5, which is somewhere between 15 and 16 miles an hour, I'd be happy with that. T2 has to be quicker. Have to be out off that bike and on the run in 5-6 minutes, not 10 minutes, which is what it took this time. So if that kind of goes well into plan, that gives me about 6 hours to do the marathon. Now, bearing in mind, I did the half in 2.5 hours on very little running. I do think that's doable. There's going to be a lot of walking in there for a 6-hour marathon, but quite frankly, I don't really care. If I can get round half of it running and half of it walking, that'll probably bring me home in about 6 hours, which as a cumulative total is around about 15.5 hours. Now I think we get 17 hours to do it. So I've given myself, with those projected timings, I've given myself about 90 minutes buffer. So if something doesn't go according to plan in any one of those areas, I don't have to panic. If I get a puncture or I lose something on the bike and have to stop or whatever, I've got a bit of give there. If I start experiencing cramp or knee pain or whatever else which hampers the run, I've got a bit of extra time there. As I said right at the outset to this, I am a get around athlete. It's not about posting a time, it's about getting around it and getting that box ticked for me. So yeah, 15.5 will be my target, as kind of 7.5 was my target for the half. As you saw from my earlier training slides, didn't do massive amounts really. I know I need to do more. I need to be doing 10-12 hours a week, not 6 or 7 hours a week. So I'm going to have to increase that. 2 swims a week, 1 good ride a week, lots of Zwift, and a run a week, 2 runs a week maybe. So it's just a case of squeezing all that in around work, home life, running a football team, and everything else that goes with home life. It's 6 months of my life. I'll be making some sacrifices, but I know it's going to be worth it when I cross that line in Bolton in July 2022. So see you there, and looking forward to sharing the photos of me crossing that line in July next year. Cheers. So thanks for watching, hope you found it useful, and see you in Bolton in July 2022 for the main event. Cheers.